Terraform goes back to this idea as, I can write some notes here, right? It goes back to this idea as infrastructure as code, right? You'll see this as like IAC. Okay, so Docker, right? Docker is an example, is infrastructure as code. GitHub Actions, kind of, maybe not. GitHub Actions, maybe. I'd have to like double check if people really consider it. Probably some people would. And then Terraform definitely would be that. And just think about like, what are the benefits of Docker, right? A lot of them apply here too. You know, a benefit of with Docker, what do? We automate our environment setup of a machine, e.g. a computer, most times. And we say what we need to install, etc. With Terraform, we specify what infrastructure, meaning like the hardware, we need. So Docker is essentially like installing, doing a lot of the setup with the software, and Terraform is doing a lot of the setup. Docker is doing a lot of the setup with the software. We do like software setup, and Terraform is right the hardware specifications setup. So what are the benefits of automating this? Right. Well, one, you get everything is stored in Git. So that means that like if we go back, right? Like if we make a mistake, if we find a bug, and we're not quite sure why that occurred, we can not only move backwards with our Python code, but also with all the technologies. So if we saw something was working last week, we can always just move to last week, go back to where it was working, and keep the train running. But then also we can start doing a delta, right? Like see what was the difference that potentially caused the bug. And the bug could have been in the code, it could have been the Python code, it could have been in the setup. So just seeing over time, right, how everything changed and being able to go back in time as a way to debug or just do like a quick fix, right? That's very useful. Also all the branching strategies, right, being able to test something out is very useful. So the other thing you get with both of these is like duplication, like easy duplication, right? And this is pretty obvious, right? But it's very useful. So what does that mean? For Docker, it means, both like developers, devs, and test environment can get same setup. And for Terraform, this means that basically we can easily create, we say easy duplication. Well, it means we can easily create a test environment. We can like create exactly the same EC2 machine, exactly the same RDS instance with this, and test everything out and make sure, if we want to do one, we can make sure like Docker actually works and all our setup actually works on that. And then two, we can also test, like latency, like any kind of making sure that it can handle the load or like speed, making sure that it won't break under pressure, things like that. There can be, some people may have a question as to, well, isn't this really expensive to have a test environment? Just remember, like, you don't have to have it running the whole time, right? You can boot it up and then shut it down. And then two, you can if you want, just deploy /test, a section of it, right? You don't have to do this for all your resources. So, that's another benefit. And then the other thing is, for me at least, like I think this is true, like it's easier to navigate, and just like see the state of what's occurring. So, right, like you can just not, if you're with Docker, if you're just entering in bash commands and you're not writing them down, you don't know what was actually run, and you can't see it. With Terraform, I find that's even more kind of the case, where like in the AWS console, we have to, as our infrastructure gets more and more complicated, that we have to like click through all these different panels to see what's going on, what's being run. Oh crap, we left this thing on and now we're paying for it, or like you can't see everything at once. So with Terraform, all of our code is in a file or in multiple files, and we can break them up and use our engineering techniques to make this simpler. And then of course you get other things like variables, right? We can have this be a, eventually we'll see we can have this be a variable, and that way we don't repeat ourselves, right? And it makes things less bug prone. So like these are all some good things about Terraform. Why is it particularly good for you all to learn it? Because this is a not nice to have, but I say it's either a nice to have for some orgs. So reasons for us / kind of almost like a maturity thing, like for some more mature organizations, then they'll really need to have it. But it's almost like a level 2 of developing your data engineering. So for you, that's particularly good because it means that if you want to work on open source, they probably don't have anything, say after the course ends, lots of open source repos won't have anything with Terraform, or maybe they'll need improvement with their Docker setup. So that's very good, and so there's just a lot of opportunity to help them out. And then the same thing is becoming more as the cloud, as big data, which is such a cliche almost term, but it means you have more ML, right, rather than the form of LLMs, which means more data that we have to serve. And then it means that more complicated cloud infrastructure, right? Which means that having something that can simplify it becomes more important. So this is what we've started seeing over the past year or so, is more positions that are listing Terraform, GitHub Actions. Docker's been going on for a while, but we've seen more kind of requirements and love for this skill set. Okay, so this DevOps skill sets, as just things become more and more on the cloud, even more than they have been a couple 2 years ago, with ML infrastructure, showing some level of expertise, or I know even this nice to have technology is really valuable. And then plus I think it's easier. I personally think once you get used to it, it's easier to navigate than using the AWS web console. All right. So getting into it, then you can see, right, just to review, I actually meant to delete this. Yeah. Oh, we can do this later. All right, so basically everything that we need to do in AWS, we specify in Terraform. Let me sign into the console. So an easy way to just lock it in, kind of what's going on with Terraform, is you can just click on the AWS console, click Launch Instances. Essentially everything that you specify here, it's how do I specify that in Terraform? So the name, right? We can put my whatever, or my backend API, or whatever this thing represents. If it's the LLM scraper, you put that here. This is the name of the EC2 instance. How do we do that here? With this tags. It's a little weird. It's not as straightforward. You do it with this tags thing. Okay? So it's tags equal, and then this is essentially a dictionary. And you give it a name, and this has to be capital. Okay? And that's for the EC2 instances. So this is capital name and then backend server. If you do lowercase, it won't break. It just won't work. You just won't see it show up. And we can see, right, the AMI this is the software, the instance type is the hardware, right? So these are particular, like some of them will have, and you'll get to see this, right? Like with the AMI just corresponds to right here, Amazon. When you select like what software you want, you can then see the AMI ID right here, okay? And then here's the hardware, and then here's the key pair, right? So the key pair is the PEM file that you're gonna use to SSH into the machine. All right, so how do you do that? You specify the key name, the instance type, the AMI, and then and then we'll have to add, as you know, right? We want to, on the EC2 instance, say that, hey, I should be able to access from, SSH traffic from anywhere. It gives you that, and I also want to be able to access HTTP traffic. So how does that occur? Right, that occurs with security groups. So with Terraform, as you know, security groups are separate resources. So here I have, I just created 2 separate resources. I didn't have to. I could have probably combined this into one, but it's okay. So here I have, to specify the security group, we always do resource AWS security group, and then we give it a name, right? And this can be anything. It just has to have underscores instead of spaces. Then same thing here, AWS security group, gave it a different name. This name is for AWS, right? This name is for Terraform. So in other words, if I do, I'll say yes. Sorry, I thought I already was applying it. So I just did, let's close it down. Let's do Terraform console. So we can navigate this stuff, I hope, with Terraform console, right? So you can do AWS security group if you want to see details of it. Be like AWS security group dot HTTP backend security. And then here we see all the rules, right, that we specified over here. Okay. Another useful thing about this is you can practice out. You can practice, like, sometimes you'll have to write some complicated code. Like this toList. This is a method in Terraform. It's not in any other language, I don't think, right? It exists in their own custom HashiCorp language. So how are you going to know if you did it right, right? You can do like AWS security group dot backend security. Let's do like .id. That gives us that string. And then like if I do toList, I mean, I don't know, it would be some Googling around. But like you'll have to, let's see, you'll have to actually try it out. I don't think you all need to do this like toList thing, but sometimes it is nice. If I do, toList, they do this. So they like actually create a list of elements if they want to. So you can do that. There's a split I think that's more what I was thinking of, was like doing like split in this. You can do that too. I mean, there's no reason to right now. But the point is like you can go into the console, and then now we have access to this object, right? And now we can access properties of it, right? And try it out. And the reason why something like that is useful is because while we have created these different security groups, what we'll need to do next is then associate them, right? Attach them to the EC2 instance. So as we know, this is the EC2 instance. We specify the AMI, we specify the instance type, we specify the PEM file we'll be using. We need to attach these security groups to say, hey, on this EC2 instance, I'm going to allow for HTTP access on port 80. So let's do that, right? So I might try it out on the console first. So it'll be like, okay, if I want to get this thing, it'll be HTTP backend security .id, and that will give me back this, but I want to make it dynamic, so I can just place this guy right in here. Okay, so this would be one security group I'm attaching, and I'm attaching it with the ID, right? And then the second one can be AWS security group .ssh. So let's do that. .id, and now we have the second one. Okay. So we attach them both. Okay, I don't know. So that looks pretty good. Let's just make sure. So just remember, don't make the mistake I made last class where you forget to give yourself SSH security. Right? You want to be able to SSH into the computer, and you need to specify that. So this is saying that, right? Access on port 22 to anyone, right? But they're still going to need the PEM file. And then we can exit out of the console. And then we can do Terraform init. So when you do, like Terraform gives you these stages of trying stuff out. So if you do, you can do Terraform plan to see what it's about to do. And so it's about to, and it doesn't do anything at this point, but it's going to create all of this. Terraform will perform the following actions. Backend server will be created, right, with this AMI, etc. These security groups, is tainted. I guess we have an existing one called this, but they said basically like there's some change that needs to be made, so it's just going to delete it and recreate a new one. Same thing for this guy. It's going to delete this on AWS and create a new one, and that looks fine. The other thing you can do is you can do Terraform. I think it's Terraform state. No, is that wrong? Terraform this command. There's a way to show, the state, like the state of what is currently showing, or what is currently up and running through this Terraform. You can do that as well. I thought it was with Terraform state, but here we go. Terraform show. Let's try that. But this is just the Terraform of the plan, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure. We can look at this later. This is interesting, though, to explore if you just type in Terraform. Right, you can see the init, check whether it's valid, show the changes required, apply, right, that's what we'll do in a second, and then destroy. Let's do it. So Terraform apply will actually apply our changes. Do I accept? Yes, I do. So it's going to create, and you can see that it's doing what the Terraform plan said it was going to do, right? It's destroying, apparently there was an existing SSH backend security group. This is the ID in AWS, right? So you could find the security group in AWS with this ID and see that it's getting destroyed. And then it's creating a new one, and notice, right, it's like gets a unique ID. So this is the new ID. And then now it's going to create the backend server. So eventually we'll be able to see that. While we do that, this is kind of what we were doing last time, right? Is create the backend server. Oh, and I guess it's running. So it's initializing, we can see the instance ID, we can see the security groups associated with it. Notice there are two security groups, right? That makes sense. SSH security, other backend security 1. SSH security group 1. Where did this come from? That's just the names I gave it. Name SSH security group 1, name other backend security. This name was backend server, which should be the name of the EC2 instance, backend server. Okay? And the same thing, like, say this name could be, you could have more than one of these. So you can, so it's always safe to just like check the ID. So you can see that it says AWS instance backend server ID is I064, and that's what we see here, I064, which is what we created. At the very bottom, right, I wrote this thing to make it easier to SSH in, right? Because I can do string interpolation by saying AWS backend server key name. This would have been even easier if I did like ./SSH-I ./SSH. I think that's it. Or tilde ./SSH/ right? Because this is the path on my computer. The backend server key name .pem, right? So it's example.pem, and then SSH into EC2 user at the DNS. Right? This is how we want to connect to the machine. So when it's done, it's telling me, right, I did this output. All you do is you just say output, what you want to output. This can be anything, and then you just specify the value. And then we can do string interpolation, right? Write out a string, and then reference different attributes of my EC2 machine to do that. So let's see if it matches what Connect said to do. Let's just click on this. So click on my instance, click on Connect, ssh-i example.pem, ec2 user at whatever, ssh, and we had what? ssh-i example.pem ec2 user at ec25488, ec25488, right? So that's pretty nice. Like I said, I could make it even better by, and probably, I think in other later things I do, so that I don't have to always go into cd.ssh. Alright, so then we can SSH in. And the next thing we want to do is install Docker, like get everything up and running. Okay, which, you know, we'll do it in this like simple way first. So what I have is I have a Docker image called Foursquare Backend. Okay, and it's not connected to a database. It's just going to probably output like a list or something. Like, it's not going to output really anything. But we want to start using Docker. So what do we need to do? If you just do, like right now I'm SSH into my EC2 machine. So if I just do like Docker PS, right, Docker is not found. And if I do something like yum install Docker, see, this command has to be run with super user privileges, blah, blah. So what should I do? I should do sudo yum, okay? Now the issue is it's going to, you can see when you run it, it's going to ask me, is this okay? Yes, right? And I have to type in yes, enter. So what you should do when you encode this, which is what we're going to want to do, is you want to do the dash lowercase y, which will tell, bash that, hey, when you get this option, type in the letter y, say yes, right? Then the next thing we want to do is start the Docker service. And now we can do, and see if it works, sudo docker ps. And now it worked, right? If it didn't work, we would have gotten an error here. And then we want to pull down this, and then we want to make sure it runs. So like the good thing to do is to try this script one by one on here in Terraform, and then we can automate it in a second. All right, so let's just see if this works. So this says pull down. Oh, I guess that didn't work. Look, that's good reason. Unknown shorthand dash y. Is there a capital Y? I might not need it. Yeah, I don't need it. Okay, so you'll probably see this in the reading. Delete this y at the end. So just delete this when you see it. This one is good to install Docker, but the one to pull down Docker, this may break it. So let's delete this. You see that I had it right here? Delete this. And then the next thing, right, is to actually run Docker. Let's do run. Notice I had to do the platform flag in order to actually have this. Now I should be able to access this on port 80. And why would that work? Why do I say that? Because we gave HTTP access, I think, on port 80. So that means I should be able to go to the HTTP address and be all right. So let's go see where it is. I forget. This is my IP. This is my DNS. I just have to make sure I do HTTP : / It breaks. That's fine with me. What was it probably called? Locations? Maybe not. But you can see that it is called locations. So again, this is hard coded. We're not really connecting to a database here. We'll build up to that. But this is a good first step, right? Almost. So what we did was we did the steps this time, right? We did the steps of one by one, go SSHing into our EC2 machine. But what we can do instead is take advantage of this thing called user data. We do. I'm gonna have to look up. I always forget this. Yeah, so it's like, it is like this. So it's, so this is a doc string. Right here, it's just like a multi-line string in Bash. And with user data, we can just basically just paste in all the steps that we want to occur when Docker boots up. Okay? Sorry, when our EC2 instance boots up. So what we'll do is we'll recreate our EC2 instance. We'll do let's do Terraform destroy now. Just to, we have to do this from the TF folder. So we'll do Terraform destroy. Okay. So we'll go user data, and then this EOF. When we boot up when we do Terraform apply, it will boot up our EC2 instance, and then it will run these steps. So we'll run sudo yum update, sudo yum install, Docker, startup Docker, pull down my image, and then run it on this platform, map the ports, right? And run, this is the image I want you to run, right? The backend image. And so this will run it on port 80, right? Run my backend API on port 80. And because we are making port 80 available to the world, we should be good. Let's do that now. I didn't destroy. Oh well. So now it's destroying for real. Any questions about this kind of while we wait? Basically, you have user data, and then you set it equal to a string of bash commands that you want to be run when the EC2 instance boots up. But again, like my recommendation is SSH into the machine first. Don't try to write this stuff out from scratch because it's hard to debug this, right? It's all you'll see is that like, it's not working. It's hard to debug. I'll show you some techniques for debugging, but it's hard to debug it. Like for instance, one thing you can do is imagine if you did, you set like a variable instead here. Like we call this my like backend image, right? Equals this guy, and that way like you could do that, and that way you can at least make sure that some of this stuff is running, right? You can start to refactor this, something like that, and that way we can at least like when we go to our SSH, when we SSH in to confirm, we can at least see like, okay, was this variable even set? Did it even export this? Then what we want to occur, pull down the image and then run it. So here I'm setting an environmental variable. Let's do Terraform apply. And I'm not, right, I made the mistake of not trying this in like, just when logged into the EC2 machine first. So let's think about it. We do this, we update, we install, we start Docker, we pull down the image, that should be this guy, and then we run that image, mapping the port. Uh-oh. It doesn't like this. Oh, because it's I think it should just be a, this. I think it just didn't like the this thing right here. I had it like this. I don't think it likes that. Yeah, that's right. All right, so we're creating the backend security group. We're creating the SSH security group. It's done. That's nice. We're creating the backend server. I think that's basically it. We already did Terraform destroy, so we already destroyed all those resources. It probably would have destroyed it anyway, even if we, like when we did Terraform apply, it probably would have said, okay, because you made this change, I'm just going to destroy the EC2 instance. All right, and then yeah, we can SSH in. Oh, look at that! I did add that little thing. So let's see if that works. Bummer. I always get this wrong. /.ssh. Yeah, that worked. That's nice. Docker ps. Let's do sudo docker ps. Damn it, guys. That would have been nice. Docker command not found. None of this worked. Let's see what happened. So there is a way to, and this is, I wanted to cover this anyway. So it looks like, so let's see a couple things. One, did it even run like that? Like, do we have this backend image? Let's see. Echo backend image. Oh, that's weird. Oh, let's do $. So it didn't set this, I don't think. Maybe I did it wrong. I don't think it, if we do this, sudo yum install docker, does that even work? Yeah, that works. So it's weird that it did not do this. Let's think about it. Let's shut this. This is what I had, right? Oh, someone might have an idea. Can you set logging? Okay, so this is what Kyle was asking, right? Can I set logging or print? So there is a way to kind of like read the logs. And I kind of might have just messed it up by trying it out. But you can do this when you get into the EC2 machine, which is, there's this file called, it's cat var, and I can put this in the Slack, /log /cloud. So cat is to spit out, like to show you the contents of cloud init output .log. I'm just kidding. Init var log cloud. Let's try cloud init.log. No. Wow. Bash profile. Let's see if it's there. So here's var. Let's cd into var. And then it should be in the log file folder. There is a log folder. And then here, look, cloud init output.log, you liar. It's there. And look, there's cloud init.log. So let's try to cat that out. Ah, there we go. So this is, why are we looking at this? We want to see, did something like go wrong when we booted, when we specified these commands to run. This looks like, right, it's set, you can see what's happening now. It's like setting up the SSH keys. I don't see my step. EC2, writing to the instances to console, running the command. So this is writing the SSH keys. Config keys to console successfully ran. Skipping module name, I don't know what that's about. And then automatically writing to the file, creating a symbolic link. Okay, so this feels like this did not, so this is the cat cloud init.log file. Let's take a look at the other one. Init output, is there anything here? Because it does seem like none of the stuff we did, right? This is again about adding the SSH keys, right? Like this is kind of generating your public-private key pair. Right? It feels like none of the stuff we were talking about actually ran. That's interesting.
Hey Jeff, if you go back up, there was a mention of the backend image.
Hold on, let's see. Let's go back in. And then let's go to that folder again. So I'm going to go to the root. So right now, right, you're in the home folder. That's the tilde. We'll go to the root folder. And then we'll go to that var file, and then we'll do the logs. And then it's cat, we wanted to look at that in the output one, right? Oh, look at that. Unhandled non-multi, it seemed, maybe it broke here. Maybe that was a mistake. Let's not do that. I tried to be clever. Unhandled, non-multi. So you can see it runs init.py. That's pretty interesting. Kind of shows you how Terraform's working. It probably like takes that what we did, puts it into an init.py file, and then tries to run it non-multi-part user data, export back an image. So let's change that. I'm not sure why it really doesn't like that, but it doesn't. And we'll just replace it. Well, we have it back over here. We'll just do this original stuff. But that was really nice catch, right? I was probably too quick, but that's also interesting to see where this occurs. So it seems like so you can see what's occurring here, right? This is probably like setting up permissions, some degree of permissions, or setting up like some of the networking. Then before the keys are set up, it seems like it's at least doing something with our user data, right? Like meaning this property right here. And now maybe that would be better. Otherwise, let me just make sure. I'm gonna look at my original file. Yeah, I could do this. The other thing I'm missing is this shebang thing, which should give it permissions. Right, it's gonna run a file, so maybe it needed this permission. It's not great to always change more than one thing at once, but I think that's the only other difference I see from my notes. Okay, let's try that. I don't know why I removed it. Okay, let's try it. So I'll exit out of here. So again, that was pretty useful, was going to this cloud init log, and that's in the root directory. So you can just do cd/. That takes you to the root directory, and then it's in var, and then into var you have that log folder that has that, especially that output one. All right, let's try it again. So just do Terraform apply. Say yes. Right. I mean, you can also just use your debugging techniques to see like where did it get stuck. But the issue with me actually still is it may not have, right, it didn't run any of these steps. And it's possible, right, because we saw that it didn't even install Docker, right? It said Docker not installed. And the export, but I forget where I put the export. I might have put it up here. So it could be that I just put the export too high, and so it didn't go through the rest of them. Or it could also be that like it just wasn't even able to like parse it somehow. The other thing that typically I'll do to like kind of as a middle ground, all right, let's take a look at this. I'm in the SSH folder, right? That's where I can do this. I think. Big money, big money. Example, ec2user.pem. Let me shut this again. I have the key name, right? AWS. Here's the security groups that's allowing SSH access. The key name is example. So that's right. Let me just try the connect thing, unless it was let's just refresh here. Make sure the instance is running. Loading the instance, backend server. Oh, I think it's still, now it's running. So it might not have been up and running. You can see, right, status check initializing. So it could just be that it's still waiting to like really boot up before I can access it. Let's give it a second. Actions connect. We can also just check here, but this looks the same. EC254. Oh no, it doesn't. That's also, I don't know how I got that off. Oh no, connect your instance using the public DNS. EC254. Yeah, 146. EC2. Alright, let's try this. How did that get off? Oh, EC2 107. Somehow I copied it wrong. I don't know how. Alright. So, example.pem, we'll say yes. Alright, let's see if we do sudo docker ps. There we go. Okay, so it is installing Docker. I don't know why it's not, and it did start Docker. It could be this, I should not have put that there. Let's take a look at the logs one more time. This will work for you. Like, I didn't mess with, I tried out kind of whatever I used for you all. So we can try this one more time. If it doesn't work, then you don't have to do anything in the reading. You just have to call Terraform apply, and everything should work fine. But let's look at the logs. cd var log, and then we'll go to cd, and we'll cat out the cloud init output. Let's see if we see an error. Look at this. Why is it still complaining about saying this exists? Maybe I need to do Terraform init. It's really weird, right? Because this is not even in there, I don't think. Let's make sure. Like, so now I'm concerned that, let's rm nosemd. Let's just remove all the kind of crud. ec2 setup.sh. We can cat the main.tf to make sure there is no exporting of anything. And then let's remove even, so this like these track kind of like previous states. If I do, let's just get rid of it. So I'm going to remove all the, so we're just starting fresh. I'm going to remove this lock file and remove, I don't think I need to do any of this, but I am, that you saw that point where that was breaking as if I still had the and that probably was dumb because I'm gonna have to destroy my instance by hand, but that's okay. So it's initializing my instance, and then I'll do Terraform apply. Okay, let's take a look. Yeah, we'll type yes here. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. It's just complaining that I need to rename the name of the security group. Let's just do that real fast. Let's call this 2. Let's call this 2, because it already existed. And let's just do Terraform apply again. Say yes. So basically, the question I have is, why did it not get the change? You saw that it still had that error about exporting, even though we no longer are saying to export. So I wasn't sure if it was saved. Normally I wouldn't like to do this, but I wasn't sure if it was saving some of our previous our previous states through here, through these files, and somehow just wasn't getting updated. It shouldn't be. I was probably doing something wrong. I just don't know what.
Jeff, the timestamp was still the earlier timestamp for the log.
Say that.
Was around 10 minutes ago.
Oh, really? The timestamp was
Yeah.
from 10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
That's really weird. So I guess maybe I just didn't do... Maybe I should have done Terraform destroy or something. So SSH, let's make sure it's the right. And what would be interesting to see, because you mentioned that, is here's the ID, right? Like this, we could check the instance ID to see if it is a new instance, because that's what we would want. It'd be like, so that one. So notice we have a second instance. Maybe that's what happened was I had a new one, right? So this new one is I0D, and let's do connect, and it'll be to this guy, EC254, EC254. Should just be able to copy this. So yes. Permission denied. Oh, because I need to be in this folder. So EC254 2024. That's is right. I just wasn't in the right. I wasn't in my SSH folder. That's why it wasn't working. That recent error sudo docker ps. There we go. I don't know what happened. I don't know why now. I'm trying to think. I think probably it's what Conwell is saying. Is that it just wasn't the updated version somehow. It just wasn't updated. So just to recap, what occurred was I, tried to be whatever and put in this line of export to try to set up a variable in Bash and then reference it here. And somehow that threw us off. I don't know exactly what. The only other change I made was this. It's possible it would have worked if I added this in first. Again, not sure. But now you can see all the steps occurred, right? Where we downloaded Docker, we started Docker, we downloaded my image, and I started it. And now if we go to this, we should be able to go to port 80, and it should be on HTTP, right? So I think it is going to refresh. So that's fine, right? It gives me not found, but that's Flask and a Flask error message. So that's good. And we'll just do http:// and do /locations, right? And that's working. So all of that worked without us doing anything, all right, other than putting Terraform apply. But now it's reproducible. Anything else? The other thing we can look at, notice it ran this in the background, which is kind of nice. So what we can do is we can go back to this var log folder and just see what occurred. So let's look at the cloud init output.log. All right, this is pretty cool, I think. All right, so here you can see the steps. So first of all, previously we saw some sort of running of the init. Here it is, I think. We saw a running of the init.py file. Because it didn't have an error message, we may not see it this time around. But then after it set the public key, right, that key pair that allows us to SSH in with our example.pem, that's what's occurring here. It's doing that setup. Then it's installing Docker. What it's doing here is also our sudo yum update, right? Update our package manager. I'm guessing that's what's happening here. Nothing to do. Now it's installing Docker, right? So that's that. Where is it? Okay, and now it's cloning down our image, pulling from JK Foursquare backend. Okay, these are the different images. It finally did that. Now the next thing it's doing is it's booting it up, serving Flask app, restaurants init, running on all addresses, and then finally we made a request to it. Right, we made that initial request to a route that didn't exist, so it gave us 404, and then we made a request to /locations. So you can go back and debug, right? And that's what, Param and Conwell were able to help with. Right? Looking at this file is really useful. Okay. So again, for you all, sorry that it took a second, but it was nice to do a little debugging. I think you just have to run this. I think you just have to do Terraform apply, and it should work. The only exception maybe is, and I can send you this whole file if you want. The only exception is there was like a -y, but this we're fine. It was just here. This -y should have been deleted. But I'll send you this entire file so that there's like no changes you have to make. And all you have to do is Terraform apply, and then when you're done, you can exit out of this. We are no longer connected, and we can just do Terraform destroy, and this will get rid of my EC2 machine. Okay? All right. Questions? If you didn't get to this reading, it's fine. Like, go back, finish what you were working on. You